we will expose every bribe, every kickback, every payoff, and every bit of corruption that is allowing the cartels to preserve their brutal reign, and it is indeed brutal.
October 13th, 2025, 5:42 a.m. FBI and ICE agents raided a quiet Georgia home and uncovered 20 pounds of heroin and millions in cash. But the real shock came when investigators learned the house belonged to an influential Georgia judge, betraying everyone. Their discovery would soon expose a secret that shook the very foundations of law enforcement.
So we have to be diligent. We have to continue to work these cases very hard, but I will tell you that we were very confident that this case made a dent in the heroin distribution in Cobb County during that time period. We're very pleased and happy with the way it's resolved.
The first hints of daylight had barely touched Cobb County in Georgia when a convoy of unmarked vehicles rolled to a stop outside a quiet suburban home. It was minutes before 6, the kind of stillness where even small movements feel out of place. From the convoy, agents from the FBI and ICE stepped out and onto the pavement in highly controlled precision. No shouts, no sirens, no warnings. Only the quiet focus of a team ready to strike before the county even knew. Inside the house, framed family portraits and wall art shook as a reinforced steel door gave way under a battering ram. The echo rippled through the hallways of a man that had spent decades presenting himself as a guardian of the law. It was none other than Judge Marcus Hale. He was a respected professional known for his stern rulings. Looking at his portraits, standing beside flags, one could tell that he had built a life that projected integrity, ethics, and order. Yet in less than 30 seconds, all that illusion would disintegrate once the team tore down one section of the house's wall. As a hidden panel on the wall snapped open under the hands of the agents, it revealed a space no visitor would ever guess existed. Inside, packages of an estimated 20 pounds of heroin were stacked with the efficiency of a warehouse shipment. In addition to that, there were bundles of cash, shrink-wrapped and untouched. The team later revealed that the cash was about $2.4 million. The team was shocked even more upon discovering tactical rifles, handgun, and ammunition lining up the remaining space like a private armory. It was a collapse of integrity behind a courtroom door. The team expected to find evidence, but nothing prepared them for the kind of evidence they had discovered. The most revealing secret came from something far darker: Judge Hale's unlocked phone. It was as though he believed that no one, apart from himself, would ever lay their hands on it. However, he was using a messaging app that allowed him to encrypt his messages. But it did not take long for the team to decrypt the messages. At that point, the shocker dropped. There was a chain of conversations with a Venezuelan cartel figure known as Tendagua. This right here was a name whispered in intelligence circles for coordinating shipments that bypassed entire regional enforcement grids. The conversations with the cartel painted a chilling picture. They discussed ideal delivery windows when law enforcement was likely to be on low alert. Furthermore, there were well-detailed notes on how he could coordinate judicial delays to buy smugglers extra hours. Also, there were references to rulings timed to dismantle obstacles on well-trodden drugs routes. All this pointed to one thing: this was not a man pressured into compliance. Instead, he was a person that understood the system intimately and had voluntarily made a decision to weaponize that knowledge for a criminal empire. A financial trail conducted later revealed that over $40 million had been funneled through 47 shell companies in Delaware, Panama, and Curacao. These companies had no staff, no real business activity, and no history. They existed solely as conduits to launder money. By the time all these were coming to light, one reality had taken shape. Judge Marcus Hale had not merely allowed corruption to seep into his courtroom. Rather, he had built the doorway, opened it, and stepped aside for the cartel to walk through, and allowing them to poison American neighborhoods. The betrayal was far deeper than anyone had imagined. It is at that moment that the entire scope of this operation shifted. Officers leading the team were now clear on one thing: Judge Hale's involvement could no longer be dismissed as an anomaly or a misunderstanding. With that, what had begun as a quiet inquiry around a respected courtroom figure suddenly transformed into an aggressive national offensive. Federal agencies were now treating the case as evidence of a fully operational drugs pipeline beneath the country's infrastructure. It is from that realization that Operation Crosscut was born. Within days, intelligence analysts had managed to piece together the routes, coded messages, and financial transfers linked to the Venezuelan network Hale had been secretly enabling. The findings pointed to a system far larger than anyone projected. That's when the government deployed teams across 7 states in synchronized raids that looked more like a military campaign than rounding up drug traffickers. Starting from Georgia, agents hit a cluster of riverfront warehouses that had been disguised as import-export businesses. Under this facade, the agents discovered storage units staging shipments connected to Venezuelan suppliers. Forklifts were still parked mid-shift, crates half open, as if the workers had simply vanished moments before the raid began. Meanwhile, in Houston, authorities descended on a cluster of industrial warehouses along the edge of the Briarview Logistics Park. With the help of Judge Hale, the cartel had quietly repurposed them into chemical repackaging and drugs processing locations. On the other side, a sprawling trucking hub in New Jersey had also become the center of one of the most dramatic takedowns of the entire mission. By the end of the coordinated sweep, agents had secured an astonishing haul, nearly 2 tons of drugs, more than 300 weapons, and a staggering $142 million in bundled cash, gold bars, and negotiable securities. This likely saved countless lives, preventing hundreds of potential overdoses and stopping further poisoning of American neighborhoods. If you're hooked by this shocking story, make sure to subscribe, because the deeper we dig, the darker this corruption gets. You don't want to miss what comes next. But what left investigators stunned was not the drugs or the money, it was all the names in ledger documents, encrypted chats, phone contacts. They initially thought Judge Hale was the only one that had been compromised, but they were shocked to discover lists naming 21 officials scattered across state and federal institutions. All officers, inspectors, sheriffs, contractors, and brokers had allegedly accepted payments to keep the cartel pipeline running. Law enforcement and administrative officers and city employees have been arrested since they had assisted in the protection of the criminal network. In total, these officials had accepted deals totaling $8.3 million via bank ledgers and encrypted mails from the cartel. They were willing to let drugs flow through American neighborhoods and schools in order to protect the criminal network. What began as a raid had transformed into one of the most complex drugs corruption raid in the state's history. And the deeper the team dug, the clearer it became that the rot was not isolated. It ran deep through the very system meant to stop it. Across the affected communities, the reaction was immediate and profound. Residents protested what they termed as an ineffective system, one that had facilitated sudden warehouse approvals and also been at the core of unexplained law enforcement delays. What followed was citizens pouring into the streets and courthouses, holding peaceful protests and demanding accountability in criminal prosecution. Police unions were caught unawares. They scrambled to distance themselves from implicated officers. Every department was on overdrive as they attempted to regain credibility in the face of a scandal that was both systematic and personal. In cases like this, the real danger isn't just the drugs, guns, or money. It's the collapse of integrity. When a judge or law enforcement betrays trust, the harm goes far beyond seizures and arrests. Communities lose faith, families suffer, and the very system meant to protect becomes a gateway for the guilty. The true cost isn't measured in dollars, it's measured in broken trust and futures shaped by corruption. Yet in the midst of all these were the glimmers of hope. Despite the system showing worrying signs of betrayal and rot from within, the fact that federal agents successfully weeded out the compromised employees showed that all was not lost. From agents who followed anomalies to analysts who traced illicit dollars, this was enough proof that there were still countless individuals who were still upholding the highest threshold of integrity and honesty. All in all, the message was clear. If even a fraction of the system remained unexamined, the next collapse could be far worse than anyone imagined. Regardless, the effects of the operation also affected service delivery. For the next few days, courtrooms went quiet as the judiciary scrambled to reorganize and ensure there were no loopholes the other cartels could capitalize on and infiltrate the system. In addition to that, city buildings that were bustling with staff a few days earlier now stood half empty, reeling from the absence of officials suddenly removed from their posts. So serious was the situation that emergency elections had to be called to fill positions that had been vacated overnight, and the chaos didn't stop at that. Permit offices stalled, leaving construction projects frozen mid-development. Police precincts also had to operate with skeletal teams, forcing neighboring counties to send support. Some departments even had to be locked behind yellow tape while auditors combed through years of paperwork to ensure no stone had been left unturned. With all these, the unsettling truth gradually settled within the communities. The system had been far more compromised than anyone dared to believe, and it would take longer than expected to clean this mess up. Judge Hale might have been the entryway into the system, but the corruption stretched far and wide, threading through law enforcement, municipal offices, and local government institutions. 12 police officers, 17 city commissioners, 8 procurement officials, and 11 contractors were found to be compromised and already in the network's payroll. Simply put, their work was simple: look the other way and ensure the cartel knows everything going on within the system. These people had perfected the art of weaponizing what looked like routine bureaucracy into a covert system that enabled illegal narcotics to flood the US in large quantities. Amid the chaos, Hale himself remained an unsettling figure of silence. Press cameras captured him as he quietly walked past reporters, perhaps deep in thought on how the empire he helped build crumbled faster than a sandcastle on a beach. Yet the symbolism was stark. A man trusted to enforce the law had in reality instead been leading its violation in one of the worst ways, acting as the crucial link that kept the cartel's pipeline intact. Imagine a federal judge helping a cartel that had been linked to a string of kidnappings used to pressure rival groups, as well as to send a message to those that attempted talking to authorities. One that was also found to be at the center of multiple cross-border human trafficking operations that exploited migrants desperate for a safe passage. Intelligence reports also tied them to targeted assassinations. These were hits carried out with chilling precision, often leaving investigators with no evidence beyond the brutality of the crime scene. Investigators had described its operation as relentless, invisible, and absolutely merciless. Every step this judge made seemed to communicate a silent indictment of the very system designed to protect the American public. Yet in all these, his takedown showed that no matter how deep into a system a criminal network might be, law enforcement will eventually catch up.